Hey, real quick, before we get into that episode, do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss out on any marketing nuggets. Enjoy the show.
So you always want to have as many fail safes as possible down the line for the worst case scenario, because that's ultimately what causes most businesses to fail in their early stages, is just a personal financial issue, usually running out of cash.
Hi, I'm Josh Owen. As the owner of a video marketing company in New Orleans, I've been on the quest to learn everything I can about marketing. Everyone has a different style, different strategy, and a different experience. Is there a wrong way to do it? A right way to do it? Let's find out together as we make marketing make sense. Welcome back, everybody, to another fantastic episode of Make Marketing Make Sense. Today, I'm joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Bigbie, Executive Director of Flyte. Long time in the making, really spreading your wings out there. Thanks for joining me, man.
Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah, man, of course. Well, today, you guys at Flyte deal with businesses that are, in a unique position, really just getting their legs under them in a lot of ways. And so I'm really excited. We've always talked about people who are giving marketing advice or this kind of advice, but we really haven't touched base on, getting started in general. And that's where you thrive and you excel in. So I'm really excited to hear, how, especially people that are there's so many people out there that are thinking about starting a business. They're like, oh, I got it. I've got this idea. But in your professional opinion, when do you think it's the right time? What do you tell people on when's the right time to start a business?
Absolutely. So there's kind of two main areas to really think about when you're looking at starting a business. So the first, and I think one that people don't really automatically think of, is getting your own house in order before even looking at the idea and where the business fits. So I'll kind of talk about both. So,
and that's not just a physical house. That's
no, that is
you are the house.
Your financial house, and it's the one that it's probably the most important thing outside of the actual business itself. And it has a huge impact on the chances of success for the business. So to get into more detail, it's do you have, a savings account with a decent amount of savings in it? How long are you planning on setting the business up for? Do you have a personal family budget that accommodates the business? Do you have sources of income that can kind of keep you going while you're setting your business up? There's just a ton of different elements to think about while you're trying to get this business off the ground that have a huge impact. Another thing that people don't think about is credit. So, how is my credit score looking? Because all financing for your small business, even business credit card, lines of credit, term loan, they're going to look at your personal credit, and the beginning of that journey is more often than not a business credit card. So if you have bad personal credit, it's going to negatively impact your chances of getting the business. And then, if you're looking for even potentially investors, some of them will pull your credit.
Wow.
And so they will look at your credit and, they will say, okay, this person seems a bit too risky if it's not in good shape.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different elements of the personal financial house that need to be in order. I already talked about a few of them, but I'd say that have a plan for how am I going to financially make this business viable. So, looking at what I talked about, the budget, what are my outgoings? What are my things that I can't do without? My rent, my mortgage, all those kind of very, very important things. And then look at, okay, how long have I got to set this business up? When do I think this business is going to start bringing in revenues? And then make a worst case scenario plan for it, and lots of different scenarios, because you just never know how it's going to pan out. And a lot of business owners, most of them, or people who are starting a businesss, are really optimistic about how long it's going to take to bring in the revenues that they need. Often people will have one good month and then they will go, all right, quitting the job. And they will quit the job, and then they'll have a bad month, and then things go really sour because it's really hard to get that income back again, once you've said goodbye to any form of sustainable income. So I think for me, it's really about, before we look at the business, it's about having a plan in place. So can you work part-time or freelance to make up the lost income if you're quitting a salaried job to do this business? Is there something that you can at least bring in enough to know that your like core expenses, your main stuff's covered, so that you're not going to be in financial peril? If you're a married couple, just to have a partner, how do can their income
Support
alone
you.
support this doing the business? If you're bringing an income together and starting the business together, what are the different opportunities there for one person to decrease their income but potentially get it back again?
Right.
So you always want to have as many fail safes as possible down the line for the worst case scenario, because that's ultimately what causes most businesses to fail in their early stages, is just a personal financial issue, usually running out of cash.
Yeah.
And so that that is just a huge hindrance, and makes things really hard to go on. So make sure there's a good plan in place. Try and stick to it. Always look at the worst case scenario. So yeah, that's really that's on the personal kind of financial house side. So on the business side, so a lot of people don't ask themselves this, but is the product I'm selling or the service I'm selling, do people want it? Is there a real need for it? Quite often, I've worked with hundreds of businesses in Louisiana, and there's definitely quite a few where you see somebody who there's something that's hot, like a hot idea that's coming off. Especially, you offer it in the food and beverage sector, there'll be a type of food that comes into fashion, and people jump on that bandwagon, and they'll just try and start a business that does it, and the space is saturated.
Right.
And so you've got to really, before you start investing a lot of your time and energy into something, like, okay, is this a good idea?
Yeah.
Who else is doing this? What do my competition look like?
Right.
Is there a real need for this product or service in the space that I'm in?
Yeah.
People don't often ask themselves that. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing to do, is just take a step back, and then I would really make sure that you kind of pilot this business in as a low cost as way possible. So are you able to jump into someone else's pop-up or do some market research? How do I do some free market research? Are there events that I can do where I can test said product and get real feedback? It's great with family and friends, but some of them, they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right. Exactly.
Some of them tell you what you should hear, which is good. They should be doing that. But you should definitely get as much feedback as possible. You can do a survey and find, go to one of the business, chambers of commerce and see if you can put the survey out. It's really important to market test your idea before you start plowing a bunch of money into it and a bunch of time, or just find ways of piloting it where it doesn't cost you any money, maybe cost you time. But that's time. You can live without that money. Or you can live without time. You can't live without time, really. But time, you can spare time.
I mean,
yeah.
Theoretically,
within reason. If you have spare time and you can use that for the business, do it. Money, you can run out of money and it's a disaster. So try in whatever way you can. Don't be really careful about when you start. You decide to pump the gas on this. On this idea, because people can rush into things too quickly. They can just burn through cash, and it can that's going to be the end of the business. So tread softly, have a plan, and really make sure that you're investing your time into something that people want, as opposed to what you think people want, because it's very rarely, unfortunately, what you think people want. It's what people actually want. So.
Right. What they need. It's like there's a thread line in there, because I love all the advice that you've already talked about, and there's like this little thread in there that I'm curious to get. And this is a little bit wild card out here, but you mentioned when you have some, having a plan, because you want to, while we all want to be optimistic, we need to think about failure, and talking about when we're dealing with people when we're market testing, being able to accept criticism and all these different things. My curiosity for you to add on to that, which I'm curious about, is what type of mindset should you have when you're like should people be having when they get into it? Like what's the right mindset to be in? Because I feel like that's a very
Yeah.
specific type of thing you need to be put in.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be responsive to criticism. You need to be able to kind of, I guess, be able to respond to change and feedback. But again, I think, if there's, people are going to be giving you feedback all the time. You need to be able to take it all in together and distill it into like one into what you think is the right course of action.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you can't just take what one person says and say, okay, I'm going to completely change the way I'm going to completely change the way I'm doing things. You've got to take in the kind of sum total of what people are saying and be prepared to adapt. This is one thing that I've learned being a business owner over the last 8 years.
Yeah.
You'll run into so many roadblocks when you're running a business. So many headwinds, dead ends. Don't let those put you off. But if it's a dead end, maybe you've got to adapt.
Yeah.
Okay. So our organization, we spent years trying to figure out who our nonprofits, core audience would be,
Right.
who we would serve, and we tried a lot of different things, and a lot of them failed. And so business owners need to be prepared for that, because I think there's a kind of a perception that it's really easy.
Yeah.
Things can move really quick. And I
Yeah.
think social media sort of shows a lot of people who are like, oh, I came up with this
Right.
idea and now I'm pulling in 10 million a year.
Yeah.
That's like less than 1%.
Right.
That's 0.01%
Yeah.
of businesses. So, there's going to be a research and development phase where, you hit a lot of obstacles and challenges.
Right.
Keep moving forward. Don't be put off, but allow those challenges to kind of shape the direction of the business, because they're there for a reason. If something didn't work, it's for a reason. Understand why that happened and keep moving forward, because and again, a lot of people just kind of drop out because they meet one or two obstacles, and that's that sort of separates a lot of good business owners from ones who'll never become a business owner, because you should keep pushing on. But you can't keep doing that without the plan. If your plan didn't account for, oh well, after 6 months we weren't pulling in any revenues, then yeah, of course, then that's very ambitious and I think foolhardy to expect something these things to happen. It's always going to take longer than you think it will, a lot longer in most cases.
Yeah.
So plan for that. So make sure that you have that stable income somewhere in the household or for yourself. If you find some work that's more flexible that you can work around and build a business at the same time. That's certainly what I did, and I was very lucky I could do that.
Yeah.
But I know I wouldn't have been able to set up the business when I was working a complete 100% full-time job. And doing and setting up a business at the same time.
Right.
I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
I needed the flexibility to be able to kind of juggle. So that's definitely something I recommend.
Or pedaling in your case.
Or pedaling, exactly.
What does it mean? I don't know. But and so too, I want to follow up on that too, because I'm curious. When we're talking about, and from your perspective, and you've done this with a lot of different businesses, and you've met with a lot of different businesses.
Yep.
In your opinion, what are the things that most people are surprised about when they first start their business, and when they're to help them sustain their business? Like, what are those? What do you feel like the things that people have blinders on that they never realized?
Yeah, I think I touched on this before. One of the things is just how long it's going to take to bring in revenues.
Be realistic.
Be
here.
realistic. Yeah, it takes a lot longer to bring in any kind of revenues for most businesses. Not saying all businesses, but it takes a long time to get that to get it all set up. Getting any kind of financing. So I mentioned business credit cards. Unless you're looking at equity financing or sort of early stage capital, which yes, people should absolutely look to do that. It's not every business that can get that. There's some people can get some startup money from friends and family who are incredibly lucky to get that.
Right.
Sometimes it's a professional investor. So there's lots of different people that can be part of that, but you got to be patient.
Yeah.
You've got to, I think, really, but look at all the different options for getting financing, and especially, I know financing especially takes a while. I mean, for just an example, a term loan, they're going to ask you in most cases for 2 years of your financial statements. Even for a line of credit from a bank, you're going to need a track record of your business. If you don't have a track record, how are you going to get any kind of financing? So that often takes people like, oh, I can just go to the, I've been selling, my, I don't know, whatever it is, chocolate covered marshmallow product for.
Wow. Love those chocolate.
Yeah,
it's called
probably already
it's called Marshies.
Oh, see, we don't have those.
No, I don't. I didn't.
Okay,
just made
you just
that
made that
up.
up. So, well,
hey, I did better than the last time I made something up.
That's a good business idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. All right, well, I'll come to you and we'll start.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds quite good, honestly. I just kind of thought of it, but
it's like having s'mores.
Yeah,
but it can be on the go.
Yeah.
So
it sounds delish. Except you can't hold them for too long. You just
that's what I'm saying. Well, it's in the bag.
It's in the bag.
Yeah. Or if you could bring some graham crackers.
Yeah.
Call it a day.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't remember where were we?
Lost my train of thought.
See something about something. All right. Where were we?
Advice for business owners.
Yeah, but that's definitely where we were.
So, how complicated the back office?
Yeah.
So the least glamorous side of owning a business is managing the back office function. If you're a small business owner, you will end up doing all of this unless you are really lucky and somebody gives you hundreds of thousands of dollars at the beginning. It's really tedious. It's time consuming, and it's hard. So. Things just like incorporating, getting a bank account. Those things are actually, they're not the easiest thing. They're kind of straightforward, but a lot of people do just find that challenging in and of itself. And, without a business bank account, you can't do anything.
Right.
You can't make payments. You can't put financial statements together that are of good quality.
Yeah.
Give or take, some people can do them when they're doing it through their bank account. But it's a lot better if you have your own business bank account.
Yeah.
Highly recommend people do that fairly early on, actually. Is incorporate, because incorporation's cheap.
It's
not
cheap.
People think it's really expensive, but it's
a
couple
easy.
$100.
Just go online.
Couple of $100. It takes a couple of weeks to
like GoBiz,
couple of months.
The website.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole process. That's for another podcast.
Go on there. Type your name in.
That's for another podcast.
Fill out the sheet.
If you Google incorporate an LLC or a nonprofit in Louisiana, there's a million websites, and it's not
contact Bigbie.
Or you can contact me directly, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction. But I'm just going to tell you to Google.
At this point, I'm
busy.
too busy.
I'm a busy guy.
Contact someone that Bigbie will get you a resource.
I'll find you someone.
Yeah,
it'll be a website.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, I'm always happy to help people if they reach out. So my door is always open to anyone.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, be careful what you say when this podcast blows up.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So that's another thing that people kind of don't really appreciate is how long. And then on the front office side of things, the marketing side of things, people they set up an Instagram and a website, and they're like, "Where's my customers?"
Yeah.
I got an Instagram. I've got a few followers. I've got a website.
Yeah.
Why aren't people buying my stuff?
Yeah.
And then it's not just about that. You've got to get yourself out there. You've got to go to every pop-up, every networking event, everything. You've got to put yourself out there. If you're selling a product or even a service, you've got to find, the marketing channels that work for you, that you can afford. Early on, that's usually Instagram, because that's relatively cheap. Or there's other stuff too, but typically I see Instagram as the main thing that people market around here, and obviously having a website is also pretty cheap. So I mean, there's just a lot of things that people take for granted. You've got to people. It's not that easy to convince someone to give you their money. Yeah, you've got to give them a compelling reason.
Yeah, it's all about that trust. And you're coming out of nowhere. All of this is trust.
Yeah,
it's like getting customers, everything.
And you got to hustle. You got to hustle. That's I think a given.
Yeah,
but yeah,
But
I
you
don't
never
know.
know. But I think people also just don't like. They think, oh, I hustle, a little bit. They don't realize like
It's
there's
constant.
there's just no way. And I think that's the main thing. There is no like you don't know what you don't know, and especially when you start a business. And it's like imagining what the hustle is like is different than being in the hustle. And
It's
it's like,
non-stop hustle.
yeah, nonstop.
So I'm someone
Yeah,
who's been
you've
doing
been
it
in
for
it.
8
I've been doing
years.
it.
Yeah,
Same time.
it's a non-stop
Yeah,
hustle.
yeah.
And what I mean by that is, if you take your foot off the gas for a
Hot second.
while,
Yeah,
hot saying, long enough, business isn't going to
yeah,
function without you as the
right.
the leader of it, or
Yeah.
a big component of it. So, and you've always got to be looking for
Mhm.
potential new revenue streams,
Mhm.
and because whatever you're selling can become obsolete
Yeah.
or unwanted,
Yeah.
relatively quickly
Yeah.
in this day and age.
Yeah.
So you've always got to think about, okay, we're doing well today.
Mhm.
What's what's coming around the corner
Mhm.
tomorrow?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's and then on the cost side as well, you got to think, okay, well, if you're starting to make money,
Mhm.
where am I going to invest in the business? And
Yep.
that's another thing that people often kind of get wrong. They spend too much cash too quickly.
Mhm.
They don't bootstrap it.
Yeah.
So that's just a few things
Yeah.
that people get impatient about.
And I guess, to wrap it up, because I think that's a great place to end it. I feel like on what people, because I think what we've kind of surmised here too is just how basically, and what I always tell people is I wouldn't wish entrepreneurship on my worst enemy in the sense of like it's a beast and it's people just
Yeah.
don't recognize that it's a beast. But something that can help us with conquering that beast are resources. And I feel like a few things that people because like that's really the name of the game
Yeah.
is getting access to resource.
Yeah.
And from your perspective, what are some of the biggest resources that people can tap into, whether it's mentorship or funding or whatever that people don't know about?
Yeah. So there are a lot more resources out there that that people aren't really aware of. And so hopefully people will listen to this and
Yeah.
look at the different things they recommend, because the city does have a lot of resources, and there are some national level resources. So, I'll start with on the national kind of scale. The Small Business Administration's website is amazing. There's just tons of useful information there. They also have some financing options for certain businesses as well. So that's like a one off the top of my head national thing to just to familiarize yourself with. Subscribe to whatever newsletters they have. Subscribe to any newsletter of anyone I'm telling you about today, because that's just you got to keep
Right.
you got to have that information coming to you rather than
Knowledge
checking
is
it
power.
regularly. But on a regional level, Louisiana Economic Development (LED), GNO Inc., Greater New Orleans Inc., and the NOLA Business Administration. Oh no, sorry, NOLA Business Alliance, NOLA BA. Those are three like big state/citywide organizations that you should definitely just again, they all have newsletters. Get those newsletters, go through all their websites, review what they have. They have tons of resources for small business owners. Sometimes it's, it can be a grant program, it can be technical assistance. It just could be useful information on the website, networking events. Speaking of networking, highly recommend you go to the Chamber of Commerce's website, because they have networking events for non-members where you can just go meet other business owners in the city. So those are just off the top of my head. There's also a whole bunch of nonprofits out there that like ours that have programs for small businesses. So I'm not going to list all of them, but Propeller is a well-known one. Fund 17,
Flyte.
Can't
Can't forget the most important one.
Yeah, Idea Institute have have some great programs. GoBee, Thrive. Anyway, there's a lot.
This is a guy. He's got the knowledge. You just got to get it from him.
I mean, if you Google small business resources New Orleans, the city, they do have actually a pretty good webpage on resources where all of this information I just talked about is there, plus more. So you just do that because you'll be able to see all of the stuff I talked about. It links all the web pages. Flyte, weirdly enough, is not on there yet because I haven't called the city.
So it's not perfect.
I haven't hassled the city to update their website. So it's not perfect.
Okay.
So there are tons of resources out there for business owners. I think a lot of people don't realize that they're out there.
Yeah.
In terms of learning on top of that there's a kind of an obvious one that many people don't think of: YouTube. has just unlimited amounts of small business learning. Like you can learn everything you want to know about being a small business owner, like especially the technical side, like tax stuff, incorporation, marketing skills. On YouTube. Skillshare is a website that has really good business learning as well.
Yeah,
really important to do that as a business if you're just thinking about business ownership, just to do the knowledge side of things. So definitely recommend things like YouTube, Skillshare. YouTube is free. Skillshare, I think you pay a little bit for, but it's not that expensive. So those are things that I really highly recommend any business owner or prospective business owner does. Because they're great resources and they're very, very cheap / free.
That's well. And business owners love free.
I love, I mean, they should.
It's all about finances.
It's all about the more you can get for free, the better.
Well, we gotta kind of wrap it up, but I mean, there is something we'll have to talk off camera about.
Okay.
About that because I'm curious about your opinion on that. Where can people find you /Flyte if they are interested in getting in touch and they need help with their business? Yeah,
and I'll do a quick plug for the program. So we do run a small business program. It starts in June every year. Recruitment starts in January of each year. Our core demographic is Black women-owned businesses from low and moderate income household. So that is kind of that makes up a large part of the program. That being said, we accept businesses from pretty much every demographic in the city. That's just like the vast majority of who we focus on as an organization.
And you pick a select number.
Yeah, so we actually have 100 this year right now. Wow. Which is a lot to manage. We started with 30 4 years ago. It's gone up every year, 50, 70, now 100. So we do accept way more. We work with more businesses than I think every other program combined in the region every year. So, the acceptance rate's pretty high.
Yeah.
In terms of revenues, we just anything beyond the idea phase. So they can't just be like, I have an idea for chocolate covered marshmallows.
Dang it! No.
But they've done nothing about it. Usually there needs to be some track record of sales. Yeah. Even if it's on a really small scale. And revenues no more than 100,000. But most of the businesses we work with are way really early stage, early revenues. So that's really and based in Louisiana, we work with businesses across the state.
Wow,
which is pretty awesome. Because it's a mostly virtual program, which is what kind of differentiates us. You don't have to be in New Orleans. We don't do obligatory in-person stuff. We just do virtual mentorship, virtual learning,
and it's on your time.
And it's on, and we also we do give a lot of options for the learning. So they have 10 a.m., 1 p.m., 5 p.m. Right. So we kind of try and bring the program to the business owner. Plus, the mentorship, the mentor can meet via phone call wherever the business owner, when it's a good time for them. And then we have a whole bunch of great resources as well that we offer, things like free legal or credit building assistance. Could be helping put financial statements together, refreshing the logo. We even have a microfinancing option in the house of up to $2,000 where we lend money directly to the businesses with no interest and fees, which is something that I'm really excited about. We just launched that this year. So it's an awesome program. I'm really proud of what we do. I see the outcomes of it every day, and we get a lot of really, really great feedback from folks who've been on it. So if you think you fit the bill and this sounds like something you're interested in, you can go to our website, sign up for our newsletter, because we'll be sending out plenty more information about the program in the coming
months. What is that website?
It's Flyte, Flyte, education, one word, .org.
.org.
Yeah. Flyte Education, 2 E's, flyteeducation.org.
Nice.
Because we're a non-profit.
Non-profit.
Yeah.
And where can they find Bigbie?
On the website. Yeah.
Look them up. It's there.
Look me up.
It's all at the website. That's all you need to know.
You can email info@flyteeducation.org and you'll eventually get to me through our, have to go through our diligent team of email scanners.
There we go, the email scanners. You got to make sure you keep out of those scammers with the scanners.
We get a lot of emails. You never know. No idea how many people try and scam us. So, yes.
Well,
please feel free to email us.
This isn't a scam. This is legit. Check out Flyte. And thank you so much for joining me, Bigbie.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. And thank you all. See you on the next one. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. This episode of Make Marketing Make Sense is brought to you by Comfystone. If your business needs organic social media video content, video ads, or video podcasting, hit up Comfystone at comfystone.com and follow Comfystone on Instagram and TikTok. Until next time, this is Make Marketing Make Sense.